Yes, I'm confident. Otherwise, you're there.
Down low. She said on Facebook. Where did you see it? I'll meet us.
Nope. Better go check. That's all I got. Yeah. You sending me a g'day? Cool. Lucky you. Okay, I'll just jump up there. Alrighty guys, thanks for coming! So, we've got some good speakers today. We've got Austin on all things Cypress and unit testing with React.js, Google pipelines, what do you call them? Bitbucket pipelines, thank you. We also have Mike Waite on Feather.js, thanks for talking Mike, on such short notice. And Mike Decker on why your product sucks and the importance of design. So we're trying to do the Coding from Beach meetups about once every month, the first Thursday of each month. So we're trying to keep this rhythm. We've got our new home here at the Digital Hub, which is pretty awesome. So it's good space to make some things happen. And I'll be looking for some more speakers for the next meetup in a month. So come and tap me on the shoulder after this if you want to have a chat or we want to present something. And yeah, we'll try and get some fresh blood. Because sometimes a lot of the same people are presenting. So. Without any further ado, Rob. Thanks, man. Yep.
Well, thank you for asking me to speak, Ben. I'm going to be talking about testing, front-end testing with a framework called Cypress. To be honest, testing isn't the first thing that I really wanted to talk about. So, present. The name of my talk is I Hate Testing, and then a guide to testing with Cypress.io. I don't know, what do you guys think? You like writing tests? I know it's important, obviously, but I've tried to avoid it. And at some point, you have to start writing them, basically, to stop your bug code or whatnot. Let's have a look. This will put me on track. I'm going to be talking specifically about UI testing and end-to-end tests, which is when you're testing sort of the interface of an application. Not so much unit testing or integration tests. You can write those to kind of test parts of your UI, but normally you test isolated chunks of code. You're running code and you're checking the data adds up, or maybe you're receiving the right information. It's not going to give you all the information that testing the actual UI would. Like when you test the site, you load the site and you click through it, there's a lot of things that can break just through that kind of interactivity. So that's when your UI testing or your end-to-end testing comes in. That's why you do it. You're trying to make sure that the interface or the application face from end to end is working as it should. You can test it as it looks like it should, and you're usually testing kind of journeys through that. So this is typically, because I do hate testing, this is typically my priorities when I start a new project. I'm trying to avoid writing tests. And then I'm trying to avoid doing repetitive manual testing, because if you don't have tests, you have to, every time you deploy something or you're working on a feature, you go and click through the whole sequence. You know, and that starts to become repetitive. And then number 3 is avoiding code. And then by the end of the project, my priorities have basically switched. And the number 1 priority is to avoid buggy code. And I'm so sick of doing the manual click-throughs that you end up having to write tests. That becomes well, avoiding buggy code, buggy tests is going to become your priority. So, I don't know if you guys know, I'm a front-end engineer in React. I've been working with Ben on his startup, Hey Piggy Bank, which is a cryptocurrency app. It's been about 9 months now, and we are definitely in that phase where there are bugs and manual testing is not cutting it. So, yeah, right. So Ben said he'd get a better developer. I didn't start writing tests. So I went and looked at what my options were, and you know, the main options you normally see about are Selenium. That's fairly well known. It's a way to write end-to-end tests, record browser activity, and to run front-end tests. Others include Nightwatch and Phantom.js. They're kind of headless Chrome browsers or headless browsers where you can write JavaScript tests for.
To give you screenshots of what went wrong, right? Instead of actual,
It can do that. Yeah, it can give you screenshots, or it can just error out and say, hey, you know, you tried to click on this and it's this, or whatnot. And actually, I ended up finding one called Cypress.io, which is, to me, looked really great. This is it here, Cypress.io. So it's basically, it promises to do end-to-end tests like Selenium would. It's all JavaScript. And when I tried it, it was just so easy to use. And I think, you know, it says here npm install Cypress. So if you're writing Node.js or a JavaScript application, Angular, React, literally you run this command, it installs a dependency, it bootstraps itself, it gives you beautiful documentation, a bunch of sort of test template to work from. And when I first used it, I didn't hate tests. I mean, my hatred of testing was, you know, kind of down a little bit. I thought I can test with this framework. I can do this. It wasn't too bad. So that's why I'm here talking about it, because it helped me change my thoughts about testing. So actually, I'm going to try and give you guys a bit of a run through of using it. See how it goes. Let's have a look. So, actually, this is a new section of the Piggy Bank app that we have been working on this week. I'm going to be running through some tests to test this. Basically, the tests are that there's 3 steps here. We want someone to update their profile, verify their identity, and then invest funds. And the tests are going to cover this sequence. So typically, if you were manually testing, you know, you would come through and you would do these things. Okay, now the verified identity is unlocked. Let's go through here. Verify identity is done. Now I can invest funds. I know it's fast. I've done it a million times. So, but basically, that's the kind of manual test that you would be doing each time. Change one part of this. We want to automate all of that. So, yeah, we got running here. So the server's running. I already have Cypress installed. Just tell me if that's too small. So this is the command. So there's two commands. One will open Cypress in like a GUI that you can test locally with. The other one will run it in the terminal, so that when you deploy to, you can run it in the terminal, or when you deploy, run inside the command line, which obviously you need as well. So if I run that, it should open up the local Cypress binary there, and then it's going to open up the local test application. Here are the different tests that we've written. Number 5 is the latest test I've written for the new page I just showed you. But basically you can run all those specs, and this is kind of what an end-to-end test looks like. Over in the right you're going to see the actual browser, and you're going to see the code executing a bunch of commands. So it's filling in the login form. So it's way faster. And, you know, down the side you can kind of get an impression of what it's trying to test. So this one's testing a new user can go through the whole thing, make a payment and become a customer. Down the side, if you can click any of these things down the side here and inspect and debug the app point if it's successful or if it's a fail, which is I think one of the other things that really sold me on this testing framework. Like if you do it in the command, you'll just get like a cross and it'll say this test failed. Here it fails, you can like, and I'll show you this if we have time, but you can basically click on the state of the application there. You can get access to the console, the network tab, you can inspect the API responses, you can kind of get an idea of exactly what went wrong. That'll run through them all. I won't make it run through all of them. I did test the overall passing, so that's something. The main one I want to go back to stop that is you can just run tests like one of these tests. So I'm going to run the alpha JS, which is basically going to test what we were looking at here before. We're going to test just this sequence. So in code, this one here. So
We'll increase this screen
I
size.
will,
There
yeah.
we go.
So when you install Cypress, it's going to put a folder here called Cypress, and inside of it, it's going to have, you know, basically these are your test files here. It creates all this for you, and then you can go and rename it. You've got some support commands and whatnot, but basically we're going to be looking at this alpha 5 here. So, okay, this is the first test. A new user can edit their profile, and it's just it's like a JavaScript type syntax. I mean, they say it's like Chai and Mocha, or Nightwatch as well has a similar kind of syntax. Basically, everything is kind of pre-appended with this Cy, which is the Cypress library, and then you have a bunch of different methods. They've got a whole API of things you can do. I'll click on this test so you can see what it actually does. So this test is a new user can edit profile. But it doesn't look like it's working. Oh no, well, yes, it has run. They find them in, and they're at the dashboard. So with the code, okay, visit the sign up page, create a new user, and we generated some fake names and a fake password. And then here, this is jQuery like stacks. You basically say get input name username. That could be get a class name, get an ID, select an element in the DOM, and then type in this information. So when it runs, see that it selects both inputs and it types in the username there. We'll make it a little bit more. So I've got some code in here. So here we can say, so we're on the dashboard. Here, we want to advance our test a little bit. We actually want to go in, update the file, and see that that unlocks the next step, verify identity. So here we can say get step has updated profile, and actually in the Cypress test runner, you can inspect the DOM, just like we would normally. I'll inspect that element there. Oh, it's a bit small. You can see that this step has an ID of that ID, so we'll select that like you would with jQuery, and then you can make your assertion, which is basically something that you want to see if it's true or false about it, and that's gonna, if that assertion does not come true or does not equal what you say, that's when the test can fail. So what we're saying here is we're saying this element here should have a title of update profile, and it should also have a class of active, because when it's active, it will be unclickable. You could test it in all sorts of ways, but that's what I opted to do. Once we assert that that's correct, we're going to visit that page, visit the edit profile page.
So how would you simulate a click on it instead of just like that?
Sure, you can just go that ID, because ID is all clickable, dot click.
Oh, cool.
Done. That was an easy one, thanks, Chris. So now we assume we're on that page, but you could do something like this. You could do assertion and say, okay, once we've clicked on that element, we should be on the details page. And then, given that that's true, we've got a bunch of fields that we want to fill out now. So we want to fill out first name, last name, and mobile, because those are the requirements that we say make your profile complete enough to proceed to the next step. So it'll fill out first name, last name, phone number, then it's going to click save. And then here, we're going to use, and this probably, other than being able to select things and click around, that's going to get you away. The other thing I really like about this library is that you can intercept API calls. So when I click this button, this update profile button, because it's a React app, it sends a patch request to update the user object, and I get a response. That patch route is user edit profile. And up here in the server in the route, I can create like an alias. Whenever I do an API request to that endpoint, it will appear in Cypress, and I can now interact with it. I can get the response, and I can assert things about the response. I could change the response if I want to mock my tests. And it's just so easy to do. You just choose the route, alias it, and then down here you can see that when I click this, I want it to wait the API response. When I get the response, I want to go inside the XHR request, and in this case, I just want the status to be okay, which is basically a 200. I can do that as well. That means the response was successful. But you can look inside the body of the response. You can say, I expect this to have, respond with the user's ID or the user's first name, what you want. So, let's see if, when you save it, it'll automatically run it again. Now on the edit profile page, it dates, boom, boom, everything passes. So, I don't have to test that anymore.
Do you want to make it fail?
I will. I'll make it fail now. I don't know how much time I'm at. But,
Are you good?
I'll make it fail.
Do another 5 minutes.
Cool.
Is this the free plan or the paid version?
This is all free. It's open source, and I mean, it has a paid side to it, but I really don't see any, it doesn't feel like they've given you a light version. Like, it's amazing. You can deploy it on your own stack. You don't have to use their servers. None of that. The features you pay for add value if you figure save time. You know, I think they've got a nice balance. So this is actually the patch user action here. Basically, we send them this form done. So maybe I was working in here and I didn't call it the right thing while I was coding, and then my test will run. Or when I deploy, the test is going to run, and let's see if it fails. So when it goes to save the profile, the response should be a failure. No? Okay, try again. Okay. So it did, it failed. And then you see the top level test item failed as well. And when you run it in the command line, that is what you will see. You won't see all of this, you'll just see a list of ticks or crosses, and you can go, okay, that particular test failed. You can go and investigate. And this is what I was talking about before. You can now actually click on that. You can go, okay, I was at this state. You can actually click on the request that was made. So this is the route that we intercepted, and you can actually have a look at the response. Where is it? Here. And you can see, okay, well, it failed because the first name is required. So at least it's something to do with the first name is what caused it. And I can probably tell from this, okay, I go and have a look at it and go, all right, well, that's, for some reason, that's changed. So that part of it, I think, again, is really powerful. I don't know if Selenium does that, but most headless testing happens in the terminal, and you aren't able to kind of in like this with this GUI.
So when you're just on the command line, is it backing into its own version of Phantom or Slimer or what? Because it kind of matters whether or not you're using.
It's using Electron.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's Chrome Electron only.
Okay, so you can't back into an older version of WebKit that is in Phantom, and you can't back it into Moz, which is in Slimer, which is Slimer's one. So this is fantastic for client-side development, for being in a browser and testing it out. But when it comes to like CD workflows where you're dealing with, I just want to notify this guy that his commit sucks because my test failed, it's probably best to use one of the other frameworks for your server-side testing and reporting.
Yes. Yeah, for your server-side unit, you
Straight
wouldn't
up,
use this.
This is a killer IDE. This is the most.
Yeah, this is like a killer end one. And like I said, I hate testing. I want to try and avoid as much, I'm hoping that most unit testing will be done by the backend team. I should probably do some Jest or something on the front.
It's better to find your own problems than be bitch slapped by an automated system in the sky telling you that your commit sucks before you even finish the commit. It's really not this. This is awesome.
Rob, just wrapping up, you want to touch on how this is working with the Bitbucket?
Yeah, I'll do that now. So I think our tests were working. What I'm going to do is I'll commit this.
A question about cross-browser test more than just Chrome. Can you do cross-browser testing?
You can only do electrons.
So you can't do browser state, mobile.
I know the ones you're talking about. It can take screenshots and it does do video. I don't know if it integrates with Browser Stack or Source Labs in the way you're probably thinking. It's likely. It is likely that it would.
No, it's really, in that sense, in that kind of completely sanitized environment, it's not going to be good. It's going to pick up on your system and what your system has. So if you've got your desktop set up to show key fonts, for example, that's going to happen in these screenshots because it's even Phantom isn't completely transparent from the system libraries that will do your vector rendering, your type, layout, and all of that sort of stuff. So it's not. It's great for you testing you, but it's not, completely isolated point of view type testing. And that's okay because it's offering a hell of a lot more verbose output than say anything else.
Okay, so I pushed it to development. We're using Bitbucket. We're using Bitbucket pipelines, which is super easy. Basically, when you deploy a commit, it'll run a small build script. You can watch it here. Again, it's like there's bigger, more robust options, sure, but we've got a million things to do, not enough people, and I think this was a good compromise to get this level of testing. We were doing everything else. Okay, it looks like that's going to run the script. We've got basically this Bitbucket file here. It's super easy. You just choose the image, got plenty of guides, boilerplates for different things. You can cache it. Just choose the scripts you want to run. So I basically build the React app. I run a small HTTP server on the distributed version of the build, and then I run the Cypress run command, which is command line tests. You can access a bunch of environment variables, anything printed with Cypress. The Cypress test suite can access, so if you want to test with particular API keys or whatever, super easy as well. Still run the build. Takes a while. Yeah.
Does it support things like page objects?
Like what?
Page objects?
What do you mean?
In Selenium, you in the test, you separate out your collectors from the actual test to say if you've got a login form or a user detail form and you've used it in 100 tests and suddenly you change the form and the class change or whatever, on the test update, you
Sure.
put that into a page object so it's centrally managed.
Yeah, I think you can.
Strengths and lookups.
So I'll just show. I'll address that question. So yeah, you can see the actual. This is what it says. It says opening Cypress, run the tests. Okay, these two tests passed. Keep going down, and this is basically the command line view that you would receive. It'll keep running. So it's nicely formatted. In answer to your question, it has fixtures, which might be what you're looking for. Like, I guess you could, here I define a user with a username and password, and then I write that object, that as a JSON object, I write that user object to a file, and they call that a fixture. And that fixture is used across all the tests in a suite in the same run. And I actually do that. So you've got before each, and then you've got the tests. So before everything runs, I basically create a user and I save those details. And then before each test, I log in as that user. So basically get that customer users JSON file, get the fixture customer users, and then log in using those details. So that stopped me from having to sign up and log in each test. I'm guessing you could create fixtures for all sorts of, for your form data, right? You could create a fixture with the fields you're looking for, and you could iterate through them and select those fields, or you could an object with the field data you want to fill in, and you could access, fill it out.
It was more to do with all the lookups you needed, so a lot of the certs and so like before. You don't want to necessarily repeat that. I just found using this XPath over and over. I suppose just stick it into a standard object.
Right.
All right, Rob, Doug, we've run out of time. Great. Woo. Thanks, Rob. That was awesome. So next speaker, Mark. I'm saying.
Very easy.
Any questions for Rob while Mike's setting up?
So people in Maloney.
Hey, we've got a live stream. Some guys from Maloney around.
This is being live streamed on YouTube. And also Silicon Coast are watching it, if you know about it. We've got a whole bunch of Maloney who wanted to be here because it's so far away.
But they're all watching on Ben's phone,
No
right?
pressure on the coming up speakers.
Audience, an international audience, just like your favorite.
Yeah. Beat on.
This is the laugh track.
Well, thank you. That was quite a good queue actually with these APIs and everything else I'm talking about. So I'm going to my presentation this evening, which I got a few days notice. Thanks, Ben. Was it's going to be about feathers. I'm not sure anybody heard of feathers or played with it at all. So oh, yeah, okay. All right. Well, you can go and get the thing wrong. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Just what I'm going to talk about tonight is. This is strange. Okay, I'm going to very briefly say who I am, for those that don't know. My name's Mark, not Mike Wade. I'm a local here, live in Marcus Beach, been here since 2011, so that's almost an old word, as it were. I've been working in the IT industry for my career. Used to live in Europe, you can probably hear from my accent, but I'm from originally, very originally. I lived in Germany for a few years in between before I moved over here. I think it's probably enough to say about me. Well, apart from that, actually, there's one very important thing. I've got a family, a little boy, and my wife is expecting a baby any minute. Okay. My phone is on, and it's allowed to ring. Yours aren't, or maybe somebody else is expecting, but if my phone rings, and I look at it, that's why, okay? All right, so... All right. Why feathers? Again, you talk about why you went for your option. Easy, basically. If I can find an easy option to do something that I want to do, then try and use it. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to set up APIs very fast. Actually, came as a spin-off of we had a GovHack weekend, whatever it was, a month or so now, and we needed to spin up an API very fast. And I was fumbling around. I used stuff that I'd used before, which was like Laravel and Lumen, that sort of stuff. Mine was very bloated and heavy, and it was like you get a lot of stuff with it you didn't really want to have. And I was thinking afterwards, there must be a better way of doing this. And there was a second thing, which is that I do a lot of framework with JavaScript, and these backends were like our languages. And so I was having to, if you're working on both, you end up having to toggle between, PHP and JavaScript, and then you forget how to do this link or count, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And so you start thinking, well, can I just do this in JavaScript? It'd be nice. So I started looking around for what basically would be a backend that will allow me to, or the front was a backend that will make an API very quickly and preferably in JavaScript, and doesn't need to go through a large learning curve. We were having a discussion earlier on. I know you can build on Express, but there is a bit of a learning curve to go through that. And I really didn't want to go through that. I was like lazy as my middle name. So I just want to do stuff quickly around the API. And I discovered feathers, and I thought I could play with it. I only know feathers for about 2 weeks, so no hard questions, please. But I'll show you what I've learned in a couple of weeks. I'm going to do a live demo, and I've got no code written before. All right. So this is going to be everything that can go wrong, probably. But we're going to go for it. I'm going to show you creating an API, a server straight away, adding a service, which is an interface, if you like, authentication, which can be a bit of a hassle, and then because Ben finds a real-time API, I thought, I'd better do that as well then, because you can't do the bit without having done all the rest, really. So I'm also going to show how this feathers actually do real-time updates from the API. And if time allows, which will be pushing it, I can demonstrate some of the hooks that feathers provides, which you'll understand what you don't know what it means pretty shortly. What hooks are about. Well, basically, they're modifications to the service that you're putting. You can add hooks into to tailor it as you want it to be. So that's it. So we're going to get started. I've got my cheat sheet, which I remember what I have to do. But if we go, I basically, I made a directory, which is okay, and just nothing in there, okay? So block your way over. The first thing you've got to do, especially to get the API up and running, you've got to have 3 commands, or 2. It's easy, I like it. The first one is you've got to install the Feather CLI. The usual stuff, you've got to have the CLI. So, let's see what we've got That's the one. Okay. Install I'm going to install it whatever because I'm not going to do it again. Yeah, it's actually installed, but I'll just do it again so you can see what's going on. Gives you those commands. Anybody use Vue here as well? Yeah. Okay. So you'll be familiar with Vue before as well. And I've got another user shortcut as well to show up the content. Okay. So we've got CLI, which means we've now got the feathers command. I'm in my enter directory. I want to generate a backend. So I do feathers generate app. Is that right? Yeah. That's it. Seems easy. That's it. Okay. So we've got that. It's going to be real-time using the socket IO. Just it hasn't got samples in here as well. Alternative. So now it's going to run along make directory and install the dependency.
Just curious, Mark, how long has Feather.js been around?
It's been a few years. I think yeah, they've got if you're interested on their webpage, they've got a blog entry which tells the history about what, why they did it. So we've got a directory full of stuff. We will do shortly, just to see what's happening. Yeah, and the only thing I need to do now is to start the server up because it's actually all done. So I'll just get a line. Yeah. There we go. All right. Easy peasy. We haven't have a better server. So this is running on Node and Express. But that's the sort of easiness I like coping with. Getting a server up and running, one command or two, something like that. But we haven't got any APIs yet. We have no APIs at the moment. So if I want to try, for example, pull out my movies, let's see the one I want to play with. But we do start getting intelligent answers already. So it's like it's working, it's doing things, but I haven't actually got a movie API set up. So if I want to set up a movies API, then it's a single command. I might just do that from the terminal here so you can actually see it. And I'll do feathers generate service. And here we go. Now you can pick a back end to the API. This is quite something I like straight away. Is you can actually mix and match your databases that you're using. So you're not committed to one for the whole system. You can pick for each interface. You can say, I'm going to use it. I walk in this, I'll just take the text database that it puts in the data to, but you can choose SQLite or whatever you want to use, which will identify MySQL or whatever else it is laying up behind. I'll show you that. So what's the name of the service? Movies. Movies. Effectively, that's it. We now should have a service. Alright. We go back over to our now. Okay. Which I've done. So that's a movies API created in 3 lines. It's not very exciting because we haven't got much in there. So what I'll do is just play with post messages. So yeah, just check this out now. Okay, that's fine. Movies. Can you see that? Okay, it's a little bit small at the top there, but you can see the rest of it. I'll just try and get movies so you get a response back here. And if I try and do something, I'll just create a new movie. I'm going to be really creative here now. Helpful. Now, because this is an OSQL database, I can put basically any field I want. I haven't put it in. I can also do what I want at this point in time. There's no rules in terms of what content goes in or out. There's no rules on who does what. There's no authentication, so I can basically do anything I like. So we'll do something pretty nerdy. Create the first Star Wars. Okay. So that's gone in through. And if I look on my browser, I'll just reload that page. maybe too. I thought that's pretty cool actually, you know, so getting an API up quickly. I mean, even if you want to just use a prototype, but you use back end to prototype front end, because they're not ready, you guys in the back end, then you can knock yourself together something very quickly with this and start playing, at least have something. Yeah, that's the first stage of actually getting it. So what I've done there is I did a service. This movies is effectively a service, and I'm now going to show you what's happening behind under the covers. So if we look in the source directory, we'll see this, well, there'll only be one at the moment, services. In the services directory, we've got movies, and the actual service itself is defined here. I'm not going to go through all the gruesome details, but suffice to say, it's created a service for you, and there's actually a model which defines how it connects to that thing as well, using the NEDB database. You can add stuff in here like defining the structure of the data as well, all that sort of bells and whistles you can add in. But from the go, from this, at this point, quickly create an API, you know, very simply. The next thing you probably want to do is add some sort of authentication. So we'll do that. Okay, so to add authentication, it's probably this pretty much enough. Authentication. We have storing a password using the local database for users. Put text for the moment as well. This will understand in the second how this then links to the service. As we got it. So this is JWT tokens. So if I were to look, what I'm going to do now is actually create a new service that requires authentication, or I can change the existing service, but just to make it more fun, I'll make that service. And we'll call it, secret agents. Very secret. Do you believe me with my girl? Do it. I should do it with a secret database. Secret agents. Okay, secret agents. Does it require authentication? Because we've now added the authentication package, it will now ask this question. If I've done it first, it will ask us already released API. I didn't have authentication at that point, so it didn't ask if I can add it in outside. I'm going to say yes, and we're going to get that for database. It's not going to be down here. Really creative password that I got here, secret, I thought we would want to use. Alrighty. So we've now got another service added here. It also, it's quite nice, it does all the grunt stuff behind it. It actually sets up, if you, especially using MySQL, which I just did, it actually, there's a terminal in there here, it's crashed. That's it. That's okay, it's because it's too early. But it should have the database for me already, the table for me. I'll find out in a second. If I try and access secret agents now, I shouldn't be allowed to. This is all that happened in a live demo, isn't it? So this is where I need somebody who knows more about code than me to get on. Actually gone down before all this.
Do you need that dependency? JS/authentication?
You're quite right. That's right. Actually, I didn't add it in, did I? I thought it did everything for me, but it looks like I actually have to put it all in for me, actually.
You can do everything on the start.
Yeah, I'll just restart it. Might fix it.
Yeah, I think it should be actually. I thought no.
Can you just go down and reinstall the packages to the mod
quick look and see if it's ready. It could be
Terrible.
Sorry?
Terrible software.
It's not in there, is it? It's not in there. Okay. So we'll add it in. We'll just show you.
So we're using Cypress.
Yeah, that's right. We'd have found this, wouldn't we?
They actually see the screen top with their, document, and they actually see the content on the angle.
You can or can't.
Well, if you're live streaming it, can they see it from the angle?
Yeah, it just depends on how close to the screen, but they can't hear this lovely man here. Mike?
Okay. This is strange, of course. It's really, I'm pretty sure I didn't do that, but I'll do it anyway. Makes me nervous because I want this going to go wrong because it didn't do this. But, anyway, we'll give it a go. What did I do this?
3 minutes.
Oh, don't do that to me. This stuff not. I'm going to kick myself when I get home and realise the one thing I got to do that I should have done.
It's just battery power.
Okay, there we go. Now that's better, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay. All right. So,
So it creates that table in MySQL.
yeah.
You've noticed it does that
Right.
for Mongo.
Good. Sorry. Yeah.
I was using it the other
Yeah,
day.
it basically creates everything it needs
Yeah.
normally, and I'm a bit perplexed why that didn't work, but I'll let you know when I figure it out. Anyway, this is where I wanted to be before, which is that we're now not authorised to see secret agents because we don't have a JWT token set in this browser, and I've got 2 minutes left of it. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. This is going to be hard,
Very good thing.
but what I can do is show. I can manually do it, which is basically I can call the user service to actually get a token. So the first thing I've got to do is actually create a user, which I can do. Let's go. So what I'll do is change this to users, and I'll change it to email. I've already got this early on down here. Early on. A password, which will use my favourite one again. Really difficult to guess. Okay, if I post that, we should, with any luck, create a user. That's good actually. Okay, so I created a user myself in this case, and now I need my token. So to do that, I then have to go to the authentication service, which was created when I added authentication. When I added or generated authentication, it added all users and authentication service for me, and I need to now get a token, and I can do that by saying the strategy is local.
Probably an R after the ST.
I'm sorry?
You've got strategy.
Yeah, I just want to see if you're paying attention, that's all, which is good, you are. Okay, and we'll try that, shall we? Woohoo!
Oh, tokens.
Yeah, so we got a token back now, which of course, because I'm in Postman here, I was going to show you this all in an app as well. I'm going to show it this way because you see the raw, the raw stuff that's happening. So now if I wanted to get the secret agents, we'll just do this knob. Stop. Good. I'll just try it now without the token. And I should fail, I hope. Yep, okay. So now what we'll do is we'll add a header in. We'll just do it. Whatever, we got one, that's handy. We had the wrong token, so it wasn't going to work. Oops. Put the new one in, hopefully. Woohoo! Okay, so that's with authentication now. Now, obviously, normally you do open your other end, and I've got an app that shows that, but for a bit tight on time, I think I'll call it quits. The thing I'd just very, very briefly like to show is the hooks, or how the authentic works, which gives you an idea of what you can do. What Feathers allows you to do is every service, you can add these hooks in, and there'll be one now that's been added in for the secret agent service, which is basically this authenticate, and there's a whole range of other hooks that you can run. For example, to filter the data incoming, for example, you might want to drop content that isn't, or only accept the content in the body that you actually want to take. So when you, for example, where you had your first name field, you know, like say I'm only accepting first name, blah, 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 those fields, everything else gets dumped. And all that sort of stuff you can do in here for and you can tailor it on each individual REST option, so which is quite nice. And both do it before the call, so on the return on the results, you can add hooks in, as well as add hooks to error handling. I'll send some links. That's probably the best thing to do if anybody's interested to go further, because that's really all I can show you in 15 minutes. But I'm actually dig myself out of the problem that I had. Any questions that were easy?
I'm just curious, who's using FeatherJS, like massive companies in production that's
Oh,
of
you know,
interest?
go and have a look on the webpage, I suppose.
It's a good bootstrap to get to 3 scale. Just saying, you know, to create your API, then you can start, you know, re-hosting it, re-provisioning it, managing it with 3 scale. But as far as needing something to dev with today, it's pretty awesome. As far as needing something to prod with, terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible.
Too much magic?
Too much magic, yeah. Well, I mean, what you, of course, the other way is you say, okay, you use this as a prototype, and then you go and do the hub afterwards.
You know, you don't even have to redo it. It already exists.
Yeah.
You've already got JSON formatted. You've already got your database logged in.
Yeah.
You know, wherever you choose to deploy it, you can connect to it. It's just about once you start having to provision that to people running other apps, you know,
Yeah.
or use a different authentication method or whatever else. You know, after it exists, you can do a hell of a lot of stuff. But
Yeah.
this is the best way to get something existing.
Sure.
You know, that's,
Mark, what do you use it for?
I'm actually using it, well, I'm actually looking to replace the back end of an application that I've got at the moment, which is Laravel. Because basically, the trend has been with stuff that I've been working on in the past. I used Laravel as, say, the back end, and you use the front end, and I'd sort of replaced the front end mostly with Vue. And then I'm thinking, why have I got still Laravel on the back end? And it was, like, very clunky and heavy. And so and that's what I was saying before. So I've actually been able to run this. The nice thing is I can actually run this in parallel, basically, because I can set up the endpoints, and it pulls the same database as my existing production service. So I can actually migrate to this smoothly, which is quite an interesting thing as well. It's quite nice. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased we've got it done so far. So.
How do you deploy that?
I haven't yet. But I was looking at something called M2. I don't know if anybody's used that. It's a very interesting Node server. But that's a subject for another talk, which somebody else is going to do. Maybe.
All right, guys, together for just some housekeeping. If anyone needs to go to the bathroom, it's just around the corner there. And notice to thank Kyle, who's outside, for sponsoring the pizzas this month.
Fulfill the dream. So thank you.
Kyle lives in Peru, runs a tech recruiting company, and works with customers like Auth0 and many others, Silicon Valley companies.
Yeah, but it's fascinating the number of great roles that are based here now for companies, you know, overseas and in Sydney and stuff. That's why I like networking with folks like yourself, because I'm not a technologist, but I work with a lot of great companies and stuff. Pleasure to meet you, and I appreciate the opportunity. So thanks, man.
Welcome. Thanks for sponsoring the pizzas. All right, guys. Mike is up, and Rick.
So, December meetup is going to be a hardware show and tell. Mick's going to be organising that, so there'll probably be no talks, but start dusting off that hardware, because we're going to do the same as we did the last one. So we'll have a bunch of benches out, people put their stuff around, talk to them about their stuff. All right, and it's toys and hardware, so you can do this as well.
Mike is up. Does anyone want to drink a beer? I can go grab some. Anyone? Hands up for beers. Anyone? 1, 2, 3. And he's 4. All right, let me HDMI that.
I'm just trying to myself. I'm used to that. I've been doing more
Let's back a bit. 1, 2.
Who put the hand up for beer? Two hands or one
All right, guys, over to Mike.
Oh, you already have my feelings and energy.
So I guess I'm good.
jobs because I'm hovering between design and technology. So I'm a digital product designer and consultant, and asked me to give a chat. I think because I might be able to show you guys what should be happening before you actually build something or start coding. So I'm not saying your product does suck, but it's also like a catchy, so I don't want to get people interested. Yeah, so also like how to improve your product. So it's pretty good, but I'll try to give you a bit of insight into what it takes to probably do some user research and design something and test it. Not kind of testing a raw bit, but more testing up front as in prototyping, etc. Testing. Well, it's many different bosses, but that's pretty much what I do. So I'm from Holland, originally been for 7 years, and I'm a UX architect and product designer, and I also mentor about 31 students remotely for a online bootcamp in San Francisco. I've been doing that for about 5 years, which is great because it's nice to sort of like share knowledge, but I actually learn a lot as well because it's a dynamic industry, and my students also show me cool new tool stuff. So I design thoughtful, memorable experiences. So yeah, pretty much what I do is I grab business requirements and I use different tools and methods to figure out user needs, and I try it all in. I'll tell you a bit more about how I do that later on. So I work with different organizations and businesses, so pretty much all my work is fully remote. I have worked in tech companies for about 8 years in Europe, US, and Australia. And since 5 years, I've been running a contractor with freelance business. Most of my clients are actually not in Australia, but pretty much in, everywhere, like South Africa, Dubai, Shanghai, Europe, the States, which is great because I get to live on the Sunshine Coast, work for school companies remotely. This is roughly what I do. So I've broken it down into 4 categories. So user experience and product design. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there. Like I won't go through everything, but just to give impression. User interface design, because I think there's always a bit of unclarity what UX is, what UI is, product design is. Consulting services, and training and speaking. So I give workshops and stuff as well at companies just to either help them build a product or sort of educate them a bit about what they should be doing before they start building anything. So these are some of the tools I use. I guess there's a lot of developers here, but there might be some people that know some tools. So a whole bunch of design tools, but also prototyping tools, user testing tools. I'll give you a bunch of links later on so you can check out some of the stuff yourself. I think they could be interesting for developers as well. So, okay, that's a bit of a double up. But yeah, like I get hands-on with a lot of different things, so wearable, mobile, interactive museum installations, etc. And yeah, this is sort of what I wanted to start with my talk. So I got funding, let's just say visual design and build. That's what happens an awful lot, and that's great, but in my opinion, a lot of money is being burned just because people get funding and they just start building shit. And a year later, like nobody, does anything anymore, and it's just like, I know that happens because I get a lot of businesses that approach me once they've started building and people are using the products and users don't know how to use them, and yeah, then I sort of have to deconstruct the whole thing and redesign it, and they have to rebuild. So they could have saved a lot of hassle if they would have taken some steps up front, and that's sort of what I want to share. And you don't want to end up here, so Graveyard, section website is pretty cool, so you can sort of check out how they build, and what you, pretty much like you can click on the coffins and you can sort of see how they fucked up. So I try to prevent people from ending up with Graveyard, pretty much. So yeah, maybe you guys are familiar with, maybe not. This is what they call the double diamond design process. It's pretty much how I work. So you got a problem, usually a client presents a problem. And it's the discovery phase where you're doing your research and surveying and competitive analysis, strategy, where you pretty much start moving into this area here, right? So problem definition, and then you get to information architecture, and visual design, development and launch. That's the solution. So my responsibilities sort of stop here. I'm a code designer, but I don't write a lot of code just because I don't enjoy it. And I think I'm better at other things. So if you're looking at sort of diagram, I just wanted to talk you guys through this. Is that readable? So that discovery strategy phase I was pointing out, ideally, if you build a product, these are all the steps you should be running through until you start, before you start building. Realistically, I usually get hired to work on 4 or 5 of those steps because it's costing a lot of time and a lot of money. But this is what I teach my students. And yeah, if you would do this, there's a bigger chance that you will actually end up with something that people will enjoy using. So pretty much I start with user surveys, just to figure out, like, I get presented a problem by a client, there's a set of business requirements, and I need to figure out the user needs. So I do surveys with people, like there's just the basics, like demographics, gender, then usually questions, that actually relate to what they want to build. So one of my students, for instance, is building a rock climbing app at the moment, an AR rock climbing app, which allows you to point your phone at a rock face, and you can see the routes of climbers, and you can leave comments and stuff. And so he's surveying people in climbing gym stuff, like do you use any applications, what do you use, etc. It doesn't have to be complicated, and sometimes, you just have to get out there and find your audience. It's quite simple. I actually do some interviews with like a bunch of those people that you surveyed. If you don't have time for it, there's a thing called empathy mapping, which is a very easy way to figure out frustrations of your users, and with that you can pretty much, with the survey data, you can start creating personas. There's obviously competitive analysis, which allows you to figure out what your competitors are doing well, or how they may have fucked up. Then after personas, there's your user stories, which you categorize. So pretty much if you build an MVP, you sort of want to focus on the key features, obviously. Also as a designer, before you start prototyping, building stuff. After that, there's user journey mapping. Just pretty much like there's not one fixed format for that. You should password that. So there's a user flow and a user journey map, and a user journey map basically is a visualization of when people start interacting with your product and when it sort of stops, which will give us an impression. Pretty much like when they start using it and when they stop using it. Then there's content strategy, which is pretty much just determining what content goes on the screens of your app or on the interface of your AR application. So this is just a document, a Google document, where you pretty much write down like image on the front screen, like intro video. You basically write down the labels of your buttons and stuff. Then there's the user flows. This is pretty much sort of like a user flow. I guess you guys are familiar with that as developers as well. And then you create a sitemap, which pretty much determines, where that content from your content strategy sort of like goes and how it all links up, and to determine your navigational structure. Low fidelity wireframes. We don't know wireframes, but low fidelity basically allows you to do some quick testing early on. Like a lot of people don't do any testing, but that could literally take you like 1 hour and basically figure out, where people get stuck, etc. And there's obviously the kind of testing that Rockshow does, which is pretty much after build, and it's different because you're actually testing functionalities. But this is pretty much to see where people get stuck. You create an interactive prototype and test it, do some revisions, create a high fidelity set of wireframes, which is pretty much so like next level wireframes with more detail, more content, more text, more images. Another prototype, another test, more revisions. Then I usually do a branding style guide, UI designs, another prototype. So there's already like 3 prototypes just in this design sort of process. More revisions, UI and motion design, which is pretty much like, there's great tools these days, like there's like Framer X, but also like Vision, Principle, which pretty much allows you to give examples to developers like, hey, I want it to animate like this or like that. Yeah, great. There's great tools for that. And then development and build, I guess where a lot of you guys come in as well. How can you start playing around with some of this stuff? There's like great tools out there. InVision allows you to build quick prototypes. You can even take photos of crappy sketches and easily link them up. Maze is great because load in your InVision prototype and it generates heat maps and stuff when you do your user testing to figure out what people get stuck. Hotjar is great when you do live user testing on live websites. Balsamiq, if you want to create basic wireframes. Usertesting.com, Usability Hub are actually pretty awesome because a lot of people are like, oh, we don't have budgets to do user testing. These are literally websites where it can be like, I want women in their mid-30s from, I don't know, from Parisian Beach or like from Queensland. And you can send out the prototype and they will test it for you and you get back these videos where you can literally see them using your product and they get, we call it like voice feedback. So that's pretty cool. And Usability Hub is the same thing. You can do like you can do NetFlow tests, all sorts of stuff. And these tools are either free or really cheap. And it could literally save you like thousands of dollars instead of letting a bunch of people build stuff and then figure it out later on. That's about it. If you have any questions, either right there, I work in the Digital Hub, or you can pop me an email. Like this is just sort of like scratching the surface. There's like a lot more tools, and I could sort of like give a presentation about every single step in that flow I showed. But hopefully this gave you guys sort of like an impression of what it takes, like what it should be taking before you start building something.
Just some questions.
Yeah. Any questions?
Since you work with so many students, what are some of the new toolkits or what's on trend at the moment?
What's on trend, I think I told you the other day, there's a tool called Figma, which is really cool, also because it makes it a lot easier to hand over stuff to developers. It's like a design tool. They have a web application and a native app on Mac, I believe, but I think it's pretty much the web application.
It's electronic. It's fake native.
Yeah, it's a fake native app. But so at Block, the place where I teach, we switched to Figma because it runs on Mac, it runs on PC, you can create 3 projects for free. You can copy all the CSS properties really easily. It's great for collaborating, like if my students share a link to their source file, I can literally jump in there, move stuff around, comment on it. So that's a pretty cool tool. I pointed out Balsamiq for wireframing. I actually use a tool called Exure, which has been around for 13 years or something. You can pretty much do your flow, sitemaps, wireframes, clickable prototypes in Exure. Share a link with your client or your team, and they just did a big update, so it now allows you to copy paste stuff from Figma and Sketch right in there. So that's a pretty good tool. What else is trending? Framer X is pretty cool. Yeah, I think those. Any other questions?
Does anybody use the SVG from Figma illustrations in production? Taking that stuff and making actual assets out of it? Nobody?
Is it like Dreamweaver code?
It's SVG that doesn't have strokes. It has fill paths for stroke shape, so it doubles the amount of information for vector graphics than there should be. So tools like SVGO and stuff like that you can get via NPM are great for just sanitizing Figma illustrations.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what you sketch up is great for ideating, great for prototyping, gnarly as fuck for using an actual website.
Funny enough,
You know what's up.
like I said, I'm from Holland originally, and Sketch is still one of my favorite tools.
Sketch is cleaner, but it also has, once exported to, it has viewbox issues with SVG as well. But
Yeah.
Sketch is
How
probably.
do you get rid of that? I can't get rid of that space around it.
You got to go into
It's like they have
you got to go into your text editor once you got your SVG, and you got to sanitize that
I
button.
can't get rid of it, man.
Fun fact is
And when you preview it, it doesn't. It's like it's like up against the edges. But then when you put it on the web page, it's like an invisible box around it.
It's really smart the way both Figma and Sketch, they have different node coordinate systems and stuff like that. They're both different and they're both very smart, and they will give you something, and it's probably as a developer up to you to take that something undersized asset that you're happy pumping through pipes, in React components.
I'm sort of moving a bit into unknown territory, but one more thing regarding software and trends. What we use at the blog, and I'm a bit scared to say this in front of a bunch of developers, for our front-end code, we have started to use Atom. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. It's a pretty rad code editor. So that's sort of where that's sort of like where I stop. Like I do some front-end, and I teach my students how to write some JavaScript in front-end. We use Atom. It might be worth checking out for you guys if you haven't seen it. It's highly customizable. I feel a bit like a trader though. Like Sketch is actually from Holland, like a based in Holland. Based in Holland. I actually went to uni with the guys that came up with that. But the thing that sucks about Sketch is, this is a minor issue, but my fiance is from northern Queensland, and when we went to visit her family farm, I had some work that I could finish at the farm, and there's no internet there, and it just doesn't work because it's web application.
Talking about Figma, not Sketch.
Figma.
Sketches.
Figma. Figma doesn't work because as soon as you don't have internet, so that sort of sucks. But then it's still Sketch.
The Electron app still works though.
Sorry?
The Electron app works offline.
Oh, does it?
It does.
Oh, right.
All your updates won't be asynchronous with other people editing stock, which is the whole shtick of Figma, which is
Yeah, it's awesome. One more tool. I think I told you about that this week as well. It's called Photo App. Bit of a lame name, but it allows you to give rapid feedback. You can pretty much take a screenshot, record a video, and it creates a link, uploads it to the cloud, and you can just copy paste it right away. So if you want pointing out quickly, or make some notes and stuff and screenshots, talk about that. I use it a lot for teaching, with clients and stuff. That's all I have to say. Like I said.
Alright guys, thanks for all coming. We're going to stick around for another half an hour to help us drink the rest of the booze, and hopefully see you next month. And I'll be looking for some other speakers presenting something tech, geeky, and Rick's hardware.
For January, we are looking for
just
Thanks
last
so
little
much
shout
to
out.
Robin.
Oh, is that right?
Thanks to Robin Moore.
Yeah, enjoyed the chance. Thanks guys on such short notice too. Last little shout out, there's actually some space the digital hub here. So if you guys are looking for some co-working space or a desk, we've got some availability here. So come on in and have a chat with Chris, who's running space. Alrighty guys, cheers.
This guy.